Hey, this one reading, The Subjectivity of Values, is a little bit difficult to understand. It's one of the more difficult readings we do in the course. Um, Basically, J.L. Mackey is commenting on how all of the ideas we have about ethics are more value statements, and value statements are subjective. Okay. Um, this is how the um, article you read starts. Everyone agrees that ethics is subjective in the sense that people have their own personal moral beliefs. But in this selection, John L. Mackey contends that ethics is subjective in a much more radical sense, that really there is no right or wrong. Consider this analogy. The earth is spherical and not flat because there is this thing, the earth, that has the property of being spherical. But when someone says abortion is wrong, according to Mackey, there can be no property of wrongness that adheres in abortion as sphericalness adheres in the earth. There's just the feeling or belief that abortion is wrong. In Mackey's view, the belief that Abraham Lincoln is morally better than John Wilkes Booth is similar to Homer Simpson's belief that syrup is better than jelly. Homer Simpson might like syrup more than jelly, but he's not right in feeling that way. Similarly, Mackey thinks you might approve of the president who emancipated the slaves more than you approve of the man who shot him, but you are not right in feeling that way. It's just how you feel. So one of the examples that I go over in class is we discuss syrup and jelly, believe it or not, and we talk about what is your favorite jelly. Okay, so for example, your favorite jelly may be Smucker's grape jelly. Okay, someone else's favorite jelly may be Kroger brand strawberry jelly, etc., etc. Okay, is there anything right or wrong in feeling that way? No, it's just your personal preference, right? And this, to a degree, is the way Mackey feels we should look at morality. Now, a lot of times we want to condemn certain things, like we want to condemn abortion, or we want to condemn the death penalty, or we want to condemn raping and murdering people, right? But um, there is no wrongness that adheres to those things like sphericalness adheres to the world, right? So there's definitional ways we can say something is a certain way, but when we're talking about the rightness or wrongness of an action, it doesn't work that same way. Okay, so if we're talking about jelly, he says what we can do, so this is just a very small example, but if we're talking about jelly, instead of trying to argue about which one we personally like better, what we can come up with is a standard of evaluation, okay? And a standard of evaluation would be something like we're going to get together, this is just an example, of course, but we're going to get together all these different jellies and we're going to make a list of things that's important. What might be on the list of things that are important if we're coming up with how good a jelly is? You might say the taste, the smell, the texture, the ingredients that were used, the process of making the jelly, right? All those things would go into it. So you might say, if you were going to make a rubric or a scoring card of some sort to understand how good a jelly is, you might put taste at the top. You might put ingredients as a second thing. You might put color, smell, etc. further down the list, right? And so when you're looking at taste, what are you looking for in jelly? You're looking for sweet, maybe slight tartness. It depends on the jelly, of course. You may not want it to be too sweet. It may matter if it was sweetened with organic sugar or high fructose corn syrup. All of those things could play a role in how you would determine how good a jelly was. But as a group, even if we were all going over, let's say that there are 25 of us, right? And we are going to measure how good a jelly is. And we all have our scorecards, right? And we're ranking these 10 different jellies on a ranking of how good they are. And we're going to base it on ingredients, color, taste, all that stuff, right? Once we come up with a rubric of how we're going to judge it, we could objectively, as a group, decide on the best of 10 jellies. Now, it's true that my personal favorite may be jelly number 2 or 3, and your personal favorite may be jelly number 4 or 5. But we could all say, as a group, we've decided that this jelly is the best jelly using the rubric. Does that make sense? So we aren't, we may disagree, it's subjective to some degree, but we can still use these evaluations or these standards of evaluation. And that's kind of what Mackey talks about on page 51 when he discusses standards of evaluation. So I want you to keep in mind that he is saying that morality is subjective, but it's still based on these standards of evaluation. And how do we come up with these standards of evaluation? We come up with them through societal norms and processes that we've put in place to establish which one's better and which one's not. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to make one other video pertaining to this topic, and this is video number 1. Bye.